Commander Lee Tae-min sat in his chair at the Earth Defense Force station. The coffee in his cup had gone cold hours ago. Outside the window, Earth spun slowly in the darkness of space. He watched the blue and white planet turn, thinking about how peaceful it looked. The alarm broke the quiet. Red lights flashed across the control room. Officers jumped from their chairs and ran to their stations. Tae-min put down his cup and stood up fast. "What is it?" he called out. Lieutenant Park checked his screen. His face went white. "Sir, we have a signal. It's coming from outside our solar system." "Show me," Tae-min said. The main screen lit up with numbers and waves. But then came the voice. It was strange, not human, but somehow they could understand. "It help us," the voice said through static. "Massive fleet approaching our world. We have no weapons. We cannot fight them. If anyone receives this message, please help us. We are dying." The signal cut to silence. Tae-min stared at the screen. In all his years as a commander, he had never heard anything like this. Humans had always been alone in space. Now, someone else was out there, someone who needed help. "Where did it come from?" he asked. "Kepler 442 system, sir. About 127 light-years away." Tae-min felt his stomach drop. That was very far. Too far for any ship they had ever built. Until now. Admiral Park Ji-woo arrived 30 minutes later. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had led Earth's space forces for 10 years. Nothing scared her, but today she looked worried. "Play it again," she said. They listened to the alien voice 3 more times. Each time, it sounded more desperate. "How long ago was this sent?" Ji-woo asked. "The signal took 127 years to reach us, ma'am. But it's not that old. Someone used a faster-than-light relay. This message is only 3 days old." Ji-woo nodded. Humans had learned about FTL communication from studying old alien ruins on Mars, but they had never used it to talk to living aliens. "Get me Dr. Yang Hyejin," Ji-woo said. "Right now." Dr. Yang arrived within an hour. She was Earth's best scientist for studying alien life, even though she had never seen a living alien. She spent her time looking at old ruins and artifacts. "This is amazing," Yang said after hearing the signal. "They're called the Rilani. I found some of their writing on the Mars ruins. They're an old race, very peaceful. They make beautiful art and music." "Can they fight?" Ji-woo asked. Yang shook her head. "No, they never learned how. They never needed to." Ji-woo called a meeting with the Earth Council. 12 leaders sat around a table in the deep underground base. They had to decide if Earth would help these strangers. "We barely have a fleet," said President Chen. 12 big ships and 43 small ones. We don't even know what we're fighting." "We can't just ignore this," said General Kim. "Someone is killing innocent people." "Innocent aliens," President Chen corrected. "Not our people." The room fell quiet. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Why should Earth risk everything for aliens they had never met? Captain Kim So-young spoke up. She was the commander of Earth's biggest warship, the Indomitable. "I've been listening to that message all day. Those people are scared. They're going to die and they asked for help." "How can we say no?" "Because we might die too," said Admiral Ross. "We don't know anything about space war." "Then we learn fast," So-young said. Dr. Yang stood up. She played a new recording. It was Rilani music, found in the Mars ruins. The sound was beautiful and sad, like angels crying. "This is what we're trying to save," Yang said. "A whole culture, a whole people. If they die, this beauty dies with them." The vote was close. 7 people said yes, 6 said no. Earth would go to war. The next day, ships all across the solar system got ready for battle. Engineers worked day and night to prepare the weapons and engines. Captain Choi Min-ho got his small ship Harbinger ready for scouting. Engineer Oh Sung-jun checked every engine twice, but they were not ready for what they found next. Long-range sensors picked up the enemy fleet. Commander Shin Da-eun, who worked on communications, brought the news to Admiral Ji-woo. "Ma'am, we found them. The ship's attacking the Rilani. How many? Jiwoo asked. Over 2,000, ma'am. They're huge. Each one is the size of a small city. Jiwoo felt cold. Earth's entire fleet could fit inside one of those ships. What are they? She asked. We call them the hegemony, Yang said. She had been studying the signals all night. They're not just one species. They're many species working together. They conquer worlds and add new people to their empire. Like the old Roman Empire, Taemin said. Worse, Yang replied. The Romans let people keep their cultures. The hegemony erases everything. They turn every world into the same gray wasteland. The alien ships were strange. They looked alive, not like machines. They had curves and spines like giant sea creatures. But they were clearly built for war. Admiral Jiwoo looked at her officers. These were good people. They had families on Earth. She was asking them to fly across the galaxy to fight monsters they couldn't beat. Anyone who wants to stay behind can do so, she said. No one will think less of you. Nobody moved. All right then, Jiwoo said. Let's go save some aliens. Captain So-young smiled. Yes, ma'am. The Indomitable is ready. Good. Because once we jump to hyperspace, there's no turning back. We'll be 127 light years from home, facing an enemy that has conquered 47 star systems. How do you know that number? Taemin asked. Yang looked sad. I decoded more messages. 47 civilizations have gone silent in the past year. The hegemony is spreading fast. The room was quiet again. Everyone thought about Earth, about their families, about what would happen if they failed. But they also thought about the Rilani, scared and alone waiting for death. When do we leave? So-young asked. Tomorrow at dawn, Jiwoo said. Earth time. That night Taemin called his wife. He told her he was going on a long mission. He couldn't say where or why, but he told her he loved her. So-young stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and looked at Earth one last time. It was beautiful and blue and perfect. She hoped she would see it again. The next morning, 55 human ships jumped into hyperspace. They were going to try something that had never been done before. They were going to save strangers in a war they might not survive. Far away on a dying world, the Rilani waited in their underground shelters. They had given up hope. In all the history of the galaxy, no one had ever come to help a world under attack. They did not know that help was coming. They did not know that humans always answered the call. The human fleet moved through space like silver arrows in the dark. Each jump through hyperspace took them further from Earth and closer to a war they might not win. Engineer Oh Seung-jun worked in the engine room of the Indomitable. Sweat ran down his face as he watched the power readings. The FTL drive was running too hot. They were pushing it harder than it was meant to go. Captain, he called on his radio. The engines are at 95% capacity. If we keep this up, we might lose power. Captain, Kim So-young's voice came back through static. How much longer can they hold? Maybe 6 more jumps. After that, I can't promise anything. So-young looked at the star map on her screen. They needed 11 jumps to reach the Kepler system. She did the math in her head and didn't like the answer. Do what you can, Oh. We'll figure out the rest later. In the communications room, Officer Shin Da-eun listened to alien voices in the dark. She had learned some of the Rilani language from Dr. Yang. Most of what she heard made her heart hurt. They're dying down there, she told Yang. The messages are getting weaker every day. Yang studied the alien writing on her screen. She had decoded hundreds of messages now. Each one told the same story. The hegemony ships were killing everything they found. Look at this, Yang said, showing Da-eun a new message. It's from a Rilani child. She's asking if anyone can hear her. She says the sky is burning. Da-eun felt tears in her eyes. She had a daughter back on Earth about the same age as this alien child. We have to go faster. I know, but the engines won't take it. On the bridge, Captain So-young read the daily reports. They had lost 2 ships already, not to enemy fire, but to engine failures. The small ship Comet had suffered a power explosion during the 5th jump. All 37 crew members died in seconds. The frigate Dawn's End had lost its FTL drive during the 7th jump. Captain Lee Byung-ho and his crew were now stuck in empty space, 3 light years from the nearest star. They would run out of air in 6 months. "We should go back for them," said Lieutenant Nam In-soo, So-young's tactical officer. "With what?" So-young asked. "We don't have any rescue ships, and if we turn back now, the Rilani die for sure." Nam looked down at his console. He knew she was right, but it felt wrong to leave their own people behind. Captain Byung-ho knew the risks, So-young said quietly. "We all did. He would want us to keep going." The fleet made its 8th jump, then the 9th. The Indomitables. Engines were screaming now, running far past their safe limits. Other ships reported similar problems. Admiral Park Ji-woo called a meeting of all ship captains on the secure channel. Their faces appeared on screens around the fleet command center. "We have a problem," Ji-woo said. "Our engines are failing. We might not make it to Kepler in fighting condition." Captain Kang Woo-jin of the cruiser Retribution spoke first. "My engines are at 98% capacity. One more jump and they might explode." Other captains reported the same thing. The human fleet was falling apart before they even reached the battle. "What are our options?" Ji-woo asked. Dr. Yang had been thinking about this problem for hours. "We could split the fleet, send the healthy ships ahead to start the fight. The damaged ships could follow when their engines cool down." "No," So-young said firmly. "We arrive together or not at all. Divided, we'll just die separately." Lieutenant Commander Choi Min-ho, captain of the scout ship Harbinger, had an idea. "What if we use a slingshot maneuver? The Kepler system has a big star. We could use its gravity to help slow us down and save engine power." Engineer O spoke up from the engine room. "That could work, but it's dangerous. If we come in too fast, we'll crash into the star." "Better than arriving with dead engines," Ji-woo said. "Do it." The fleet prepared for the most dangerous jump of the journey. They would come out of hyperspace very close to Kepler's star and use its gravity to break their speed. When they made the jump, space exploded around them. The Kepler system was full of enemy ships, thousands of them, just like the long-range sensors had shown. But seeing them up close was different. The bioships were huge and horrible, like living nightmares swimming through space. "All ships go dark," Ji-woo ordered. "Hide behind the asteroid belt. Don't let them see us." The human fleet powered down their engines and weapons. They drifted like dead rocks between the asteroids, watching the enemy through telescopes and passive sensors. What they saw made them sick. Kepler 442b was dying. The planet that had once been green and blue was now gray and red. Massive hegemony ships hung in orbit like vultures, shooting beams of energy at the surface. Where the beams hit, the ground turned to ash. "They're changing the air," Yang said, reading the sensor data, "making it breathable for their own people. The Rilani can't survive in it." Through the telescopes, they could see the beautiful crystal cities of the Rilani burning. The aliens had built their homes to catch and reflect sunlight, creating rainbows across their world. Now those same crystals were melting and falling like glass tears. Communications officer Da-un worked frantically to contact the survivors. Most of the Rilani communication networks were dead, but she found a few weak signals from underground bunkers. "I have them," she announced. "There are still survivors." The main screen showed the face of an alien. The Rilani looked almost human, but with larger eyes and skin that shimmered like pearl. This one was old, with silver hair and deep sadness in his eyes. "I am Elder Veltar," the alien said. Are you real? Or am I dreaming before I die?" Captain So-young stepped forward. "We're real. We're humans, from a planet called Earth. We received your message." Veltar's eyes filled with tears. "You came. Someone actually came. In all the history of our people, in all the stories of the galaxy, no one has ever answered a call for help. We're here now," So-young said. "How many of your people are still alive?" "Perhaps 50,000, hidden in the deep caves. But the enemy is finding us. They have machines that can sense our life signs. Soon there will be none left." Dr. Yang leaned forward. Elder Veltar, we need to know about these enemy ships. What are their weapons like? How do they fight? The old Rilani shared everything he knew. The hegemony bioships were grown, not built. They had living armor that could heal itself. Their weapons were based on energy, not the metal bullets that humans used. But they had weaknesses too. The ships all connected to each other through something like a giant brain. If that brain was damaged, the ships would become confused and weak. There, Veltar said, pointing to a massive ship at the center of the enemy fleet. That is the mothership. It controls all the others, but it is heavily defended. Many smaller ships surround it like children protecting their mother. Lieutenant Nam studied the tactical display. We're outnumbered 100 to 1. Our weapons are different from theirs, but we don't know if different means better. Admiral Jiwoo looked at her officers. They had come so far, lost so many ships and people. Now they faced an enemy that had conquered almost 50 worlds. The smart thing would be to retreat and warn Earth. But the Rilani were dying. Every hour, they waited. More innocent people were murdered. Commander Lee Taemin spoke up from his position on the assault ship. Ma'am, my Marines are ready for ground combat. If we can get to the planet, we can protect the survivors while the fleet fights. In space. And how do you plan to get through thousands of enemy ships? Nam asked. Taemin smiled grimly. We don't go through them. We go under them. The plan was crazy, but it might work. The human ships would split into 3 groups. The main fleet would attack the enemy from the front, drawing their attention. The frigates would circle around and hit them from the side. Meanwhile, Taemin's assault ships would use the planet's gravity to swing around behind the enemy and land troops. It was the kind of battle plan that could only work once. If they failed, there would be no second chance. How long before the engines are ready? Jiwoo asked. Oh, checked his readings. 2 hours, ma'am, but they'll be running on empty after the first battle. Then we better win fast, So Young said. As the human fleet prepared for humanity's first interstellar war, Elder Veltar and the Rilani survivors gathered in their deep caves. They had lost hope long ago, but now something new stirred in their hearts. Someone had come. Someone cared enough to try. Even if they all died today, they would not die alone. The battle began when Kepler's sun touched the horizon of the dying planet below. Admiral Park Jiwoo gave the order from her command ship. All vessels, this is Admiral Jiwoo. Today we fight not just for the Rilani, but for every innocent life in this galaxy. Show them what humans do when good people are in danger. The human fleet powered up their engines and weapons. 53 ships emerged from the asteroid belt like silver hawks diving from the sky. Their hulls gleamed in the starlight and their weapons charged with deadly energy. The hegemony bioships reacted slowly at first. They had never faced organized resistance before. Every other species had either run away or died quickly. These new ships looked small and weak. They were wrong. Captain Kim So-young stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as her ship led the attack. Target the nearest command vessel. All weapons fire. The Indomitable's main guns spoke with thunder. Nuclear missiles streaked across space like falling stars. Kinetic shells moved so fast they turned to plasma when they hit their targets. The first hegemony bioship screamed. It was a sound that came through space itself, a cry of pain and surprise. The organic armor that covered the alien vessel split, open like rotten fruit. Green blood sprayed into the vacuum. Direct hit, announced Weapons Officer Han Mi-young. The target is damaged but still fighting. More human ships joined the attack. Captain Kang Woo-jin's Retribution fired a spread of missiles at a second bioship. The explosions lit up space like tiny suns, but the enemy was not helpless. The hegemony ships began to move, twisting through space like giant snakes, their weapons charged with purple light. Incoming energy blast, called out Tactical Officer Nam In-soo. All ships evasive action. The purple beam missed the Indomitable by only a few meters. Where it passed, space itself seemed to burn. Lieutenant. Commander Choi Min-ho's small ship Harbinger danced between the larger vessels like a mouse among elephants. His job was to find weak spots in the enemy formation and report back to the main fleet. I see something, Min-ho called on the radio. The big ships move slow, but they have smaller ones protecting them. If we can get past the small ones, we can hurt the big ones bad. Copy that, Harbinger. All frigate captains follow Harbinger's lead. Wolf pack formation. The human frigates spread out like hunting wolves. They were fast and carried powerful weapons for their size. Each one could hurt a bioship badly if it got close enough. But getting close was the hard part. The first frigate to try was the Dawn Light, commanded by Captain Park Hyun-woo. She tried to slip between two large bioships, but they moved to trap her. Energy beams hit her ship from both sides. Hull breach on decks 3 and 4. Park reported, her voice calm even as her ship died around her. Engines are gone. We're not getting out of this one. Admiral Jiwoo heard the transmission and felt her heart break. Captain Park, can you reach the escape pods? Negative, ma'am. But we're not done fighting yet. All hands prepare for ramming speed. The Dawn Light turned toward the nearest bioship and pushed her engines to maximum power. Even damaged, she was moving fast when she hit. The explosion tore through both ships, leaving nothing but burning metal and alien flesh. Dawn Light is gone, So Young announced to her crew. But she took one of them with her. The battle spread across the Kepler system. Human ships fought with tactics learned in Earth's bloody history. They used speed and surprise, hitting hard, and moving away before the enemy could respond. The hegemony bioships fought like a single organism. When one was hurt, others moved to protect it. When the humans attacked from one direction, the aliens shifted to meet them. It was like fighting a giant brain that controlled 1,000 hands. Engineer Oh Seung-jun worked frantically in the engine room as the Indomitable shook from enemy fire. Sparks flew from damaged systems. The air was thick with smoke. "Captain, the engines are overheating again," Oh called out. "If we keep fighting like this, we'll lose power in 20 minutes. So, Young made a hard choice. "All ships, this is Indomitable. We need to hit them harder and faster. No more careful attacks. We go all in right now." It was a desperate plan. The human fleet would charge straight at the center of the enemy formation, where the largest bioships waited. They would either win quickly or die trying. "Ma'am," Nam said quietly, "our chances of survival just dropped to about 5%. "Then we better make those 5% count," So Young replied. While the space battle raged above, Commander Lee Tae-min led his Marines toward the planet's surface. His 3 assault ships had used the gravity well to swing around behind the enemy fleet, just as planned. "Landing zone is hot," reported his pilot, Lieutenant Lee Ju-won. "Lots of enemy. Ground forces between us and the Rilani survivors." Tae-min checked his weapon and looked at his soldiers. They were good people, trained for war but hoping for peace. Today they would see more fighting than any Earth soldier in 50 years. "Remember," he told them, "we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. Make every shot count." The assault ships dropped through the planet's atmosphere like meteors. Enemy fire reached up to meet them, but the human ships were fast and hard to hit. They landed in the ruins of what had once been a beautiful crystal city. The buildings looked like frozen music, tall spires that had once sung in the wind. Now, they were broken and burning. Tae-min's Marines spread out quickly, taking cover behind the fallen crystals. The enemy ground forces were already moving toward them. Things that looked like armored insects the size of trucks. "Contact front," called Sergeant Kim Yoon-ji. Large hostiles moving fast. The Marines opened fire with everything they had. Their bullets and energy weapons lit up the ruined city like a deadly light show. High above them, the space battle reached its climax. The human fleet had pushed deep into the enemy formation, suffering terrible losses. Half their ships were gone. But they had hurt the bioships badly too. Dr. Yang Hye-jin worked with Rilani scientists through the communication link, trying to find the enemy's weakness. The old alien Elder Veltar shared everything his people knew about hegemony technology. "There," Veltar said, pointing to readings on Yang's screen. "Do you see those neural patterns? All the bioships are connected to the mothership. If you can damage that connection." Yang understood immediately. "It's like cutting the strings on a puppet. Without the mothership's control, the other ships won't know what to do." She quickly sent the information to the fleet's tactical computers. Within seconds, every human captain knew where to aim their weapons. All ships, Admiral Jiwoo ordered, focus fire on the mothership's communication organs, those glowing spots along its side. The remaining human ships turned their weapons toward the massive central vessel. It was the size of a small moon, covered in thick armor and protected by dozens of smaller bioships. Captain So Young pushed the Indomitable forward, her engines screaming with effort. Han, I want every missile we have loaded and ready. We get one shot at this. Ma'am, Han replied. If we fire everything at once, the missile backblast might destroy our own ship. Then we better aim carefully. The Indomitable charged straight, at the mothership like an ancient knight with a lance. Enemy fire tore at her hull, but she kept coming. Behind her, the other human ships followed, adding their fire to hers. When they were close enough to see the details of the alien vessel's skin, So Young gave the final order. Fire everything. Every missile tube on the Indomitable opened at once. Nuclear warheads streaked toward the mothership's glowing communication organs. The other human ships did the same, creating a storm of fire and destruction. The explosions were beautiful and terrible. They lit up the darkness between the stars and shook the fabric of space itself. When the light faded, the mothership was still there. But the glowing organs along its sides were dark and broken. Across the battlefield, the smaller bioships suddenly stopped moving in formation. They drifted like confused animals, no longer sure what they were supposed to do. It worked, Yang called out in excitement. The neural link is broken. They can't coordinate anymore. Admiral Jiwoo saw the opportunity and took it. All ships, attack pattern Delta, hit them while they're confused. The surviving human vessels swept through the enemy formation like sharks among confused fish. Without their unified command, the bioships were much easier targets. Some tried to run. Others turned on each other in their confusion. A few kept fighting, but they were isolated and outnumbered. The battle was turning in humanity's favor, but the cost had been terrible. Of the 53 ships that had started the fight, only 19 were still able to fight. Hundreds of good people had died to save aliens they had never met. On the planet's surface, Commander Taemin's Marines had fought their way to the underground shelters where the Rilani survivors waited. The alien civilians looked up at the human soldiers with wonder and gratitude. "Are we safe?" asked a young Rilani female holding her child close. Taemin looked up at the sky where explosions still lit the darkness. "We're working on it." The battle for Kepler was not over yet, but for the first time since the human fleet had arrived, victory seemed possible. Elder Veltar stood beside Commander Taemin and watched the lights in the sky. "Your people fight like nothing I have ever seen. You are so few, but you do not give up." Space tore apart like fabric as the hegemony reinforcements arrived. Admiral Park Jiwoo watched her tactical display in horror as hundreds of new bioships poured through the massive wormhole. The enemy vessels were fresh and undamaged, while her fleet was battered and running low on ammunition. "How many?" she asked, though she didn't want to hear the answer. 237 new contacts, reported her sensor operator, his voice shaking. "All large-class bioships, they're forming attack formations." Captain Kim So-young felt the Indomitable shudder as another energy beam grazed their hull. Her ship had taken heavy damage during the first battle. Hull plates were missing, and smoke filled several decks. "Status report," she called out. Engineer Oh Sung-jun's voice came through the speakers, strained with exhaustion. "Main engines at 60%. Half our missile tubes are jammed. Life support is failing on decks 5 through 8. "How many missiles do we have left?" 12, ma'am, and maybe 30 minutes of fighting power in the reactors." So-young closed her eyes for a moment. 12 missiles against 200 ships, it was impossible, but impossible had never stopped humans before. The new hegemony fleet moved toward the humans like a wall of death. Their bioships were even larger than the first group, some as big as Earth's moon. They had been designed for crushing entire civilizations, not fighting small fleets. Lieutenant Commander Choi Min-ho's scout ship Harbinger raced between the enemy vessels, gathering intelligence. What he found made his blood run cold. "Admiral," he reported, The big ship in the center isn't just a command vessel. It's carrying some kind of planet-killing weapon. Sensors show massive energy buildup in its core. Dr. Yang Hiejin studied the readings from her science station. It's a tectonic disruptor. They're going to crack the planet's crust. If that weapon fires, everyone on the surface dies instantly. On the planet below, Commander Lee Taemin was leading Rilani civilians through the ruins of their crystal cities. The beautiful aliens moved slowly, many of them injured or weak from hiding underground for weeks. "How much longer until the evacuation ships arrive?" he asked over his radio. "Sir," came the reply from space, "there are no evacuation ships. We're all fighting just to stay alive up here." Taemin looked at the thousands of Rilani around him. Old ones, young ones, families with children who looked at him with hope in their large eyes. He had promised they would be safe. "Then we dig in and hold our ground," he told his Marines. "These people are counting on us." In space, Admiral Jiwoo made a decision that would change everything. "All ships," she announced. "New formation, Pattern Omega." Captain Kang Woo-jin of the Retribution was the first to understand. "Ma'am, Pattern Omega is a suicide formation. We'll all be destroyed." "Maybe," Jiwoo replied. "But we'll take a lot of them with us, and maybe that will be enough." Pattern Omega was something human military planners had created but hoped never to use. It involved spreading the fleet out in a sphere around the enemy, then having every ship attack at once from all directions. It was devastating to the enemy, but it meant the attacking fleet would be destroyed in the process. Captain So-young understood what the Admiral was asking. She looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. These people had followed her across the galaxy to save strangers. They deserved to know what they were facing. "All hands, this is the captain," she announced over the ship's speakers. "We're outnumbered 10 to 1. Our weapons are almost empty. Our engines are dying. By every logical measure, we should retreat and save ourselves." She paused, looking out at the alien stars. "But logic isn't why we came here. We came because someone asked for help, because innocent people were dying, because it was the right thing to do. Today, we show the galaxy what humans are made of." The crew of the Indomitable cheered. It was a sound of defiance that echoed through the ship's corridors, even as enemy fire shook the hull around them. The human fleet began to move into position Omega. The ships spread out in a perfect sphere around the hegemony formation, each vessel taking position for a final coordinated attack. But Captain So-young had one more idea. "Dr. Yang," she called, "you said the bioships use energy weapons, right? And our fusion reactors create electromagnetic interference?" "Yes, but what does that matter now?" So-young smiled grimly. "Oh, I want you to overload our reactor, not enough to explode, but enough to create massive electromagnetic pulses." O's voice came from the engine room, excited despite their situation. "Captain, if I overload all the reactors at once, it will create a feedback loop through the fleet's communication system. Every ship in our formation will pulse at the same time." "And what will that do to the bioships?" "Their neural networks will be fried. They won't be able to think or coordinate for several minutes." It was a desperate plan, but it was the only one they had. "All ships," Admiral Jiwoo ordered, "prepare for synchronized electromagnetic pulse on my mark. This is our one shot. Make it count." The hegemony fleet moved closer, confident in their overwhelming numbers. The massive planet-killer ship in their center began to charge its terrible weapon. Energy readings climbed higher and higher. Elder Veltar, still on the planet's surface with Commander Taemin, watched the sky through a broken crystal window. "Your ships are very small compared to theirs," he said softly. "Size isn't everything," Taemin replied. "Sometimes the smallest person can make the biggest difference." In space, the human ships reached their positions. 19 vessels against more than 200. The enemy bioships began to turn toward them, energy weapons charging. "All ships, report ready," announced Admiral Jiwoo. "Remember, we fire everything at once. Target the planet-killer ship first, then spread fire to the others. On my mark." Captain So-young gripped the arms of her command chair. Around her, the bridge crew worked frantically at their stations. They had come so far from Earth, traveled further than any human before them. "Mark," Jiwoo said quietly. Every human ship in the formation overloaded their reactors at the same moment. The electromagnetic pulse that resulted was like a star exploding. It washed over the hegemony bioships in a wave of invisible energy. The effect was instant and devastating. The organic vessels twisted and writhed as their neural networks shut down. For the first time in the battle, the aliens were truly helpless. "Now," So Young shouted, "fire everything." The last missiles in humanity's arsenal streaked toward the planet killer ship. Nuclear warheads detonated against its hull like tiny suns. Kinetic rounds punched through its organic armor at impossible speeds. Other human ships did the same, focusing all their remaining power on the enemy's most dangerous vessel. The combined firepower of the entire fleet hit the planet killer at once. The massive bioship screamed as it died. The sound echoed through space itself, a cry of pain and rage that seemed to go on forever. Then the ship's tectonic weapon exploded inside its hull. The blast was incredible. It tore the giant vessel apart from the inside, sending chunks of organic matter flying in all directions. Several smaller bioships were caught in the explosion and destroyed instantly, but the electromagnetic pulse was wearing off. The remaining hegemony ships began to recover, their neural networks coming back online, and they were very, very angry. "All ships," Admiral Jiwoo called out. "The pulse won't last much longer. Use this time to get as close as possible. When they wake up, we want to be right in their faces." The human fleet charged forward while the bioships were still stunned. They flew between the massive alien vessels like insects among sleeping giants. Engineer O worked frantically to restart the Indomitable's main engines. The electromagnetic pulse had damaged their own systems too. "Come on," he muttered, hitting switches and rerouting power. "Don't fail me now." The engines coughed to life just as the bioships began to move again. What followed was the most intense fighting of the entire battle. Human ships flew through narrow gaps between enemy vessels, firing at point-blank range. The aliens tried to swat them like flies, but the humans were too fast and too unpredictable. Commander Yu Dong-hyun, captain of the cruiser Vengeance, found himself flying inside the hollow body of a massive bioship. His weapons officer, Lieutenant Song Min-ah, fired continuously as they raced through alien corridors filled with living machinery. "This is insane," Song called out over the noise of battle. "Yeah," Yu replied with a grin. "Isn't it great?" They emerged from the other side of the bioship just as it exploded behind them. The battle raged on for what felt like hours but was really only minutes. Human ships died one by one, but they took many aliens with them. The crew of each vessel fought until their last breath, never giving up, never surrendering. Medic Young Yurim worked desperately in the Indomitable's medical bay as wounded crew members poured in. She had run out of medical supplies an hour ago and was now using torn cloth and spare parts to save lives. "How bad is it out there?" she asked a young sailor, who had lost his left arm to an energy blast. "Bad," he replied through gritted teeth. "But we're winning. Somehow we're actually winning." And it was true. The hegemony fleet was falling apart. Without their planet killer ship, they had lost their main advantage. The human tactics were confusing them and their losses were mounting quickly. But the humans were dying too. The Indomitable was one of only 6 ships still fighting. 3 months after the battle, Kepler 442b was healing. Captain Kim So-young, now wearing the insignia of an admiral, stood on the observation deck of the newly built orbital station. Below her, the planet's crystal cities were rising again. But this time they were different. Among the traditional Rilani spires of living crystal, new structures stood. These were built from human metal and alien technology working together. The sight made So-young smile, despite the sadness that still filled her heart. "Admiral," called Commander Lee Tae-min as he approached. His left arm was in a sling from the ground fighting, but he looked happier than she had seen him in months. "The memorial service is about to begin." So-young nodded. Today they would honor the humans who had died to save this world. 49 ships and over 3,000 crew members had given their lives. Their names would be carved into crystal monuments that would sing their stories to the wind forever. The ceremony took place in the rebuilt capital city of the Rilani. Thousands of the grateful aliens gathered alongside the surviving human crew, members. Elder Veltar, now the elected leader of his people's recovery efforts, spoke first. "We have no words in our language for what humans did for us," he said, his voice carrying across the crystal plaza. "In all the stories of our people and all the history of the galaxy, no one has ever come to help strangers in need. Until now." Theor, old alien, gestured to a wall covered with human names written in both languages. "These people died for us, not for profit, not for conquest, but because it was right. They have changed our understanding of what courage means." Dr. Yang Hyejin wiped tears from her eyes as she listened. She had spent the last 3 months learning about Rilani culture and helping to establish communication protocols with other alien species. The work was fascinating, but moments like this reminded her of the price that had been paid. After the ceremony, So Young walked through the city with Elder Veltar. The Rilani had rebuilt their homes in a new style that mixed their crystal architecture with human engineering principles. The result was beautiful and practical. "Your people learn quickly," Veltar observed. "Already you understand our technology better than species that have known us for centuries." "Humans are good at adapting," So Young replied. "We had to survive on our homeworld." They paused at a construction site where human engineers and Rilani artists worked side by side. They were building something that had never existed before. A combined military and scientific base designed by both species. "The Galactic Council wants to meet with you," Veltar said carefully. "They have heard about the battle here. Many species are curious about humans." So Young had been expecting this. Reports of humanity's intervention had spread across known space faster than their ships could travel. For the first time in galactic history, someone had successfully fought off a hegemony invasion. "Are they afraid of us?" she asked. Veltar considered the question. "Some are. Others are hopeful. Most are simply amazed that anyone would fight so hard for strangers." A week later, representatives from 12 different alien species arrived at Kepler 4132b. They came in ships of all shapes and sizes, from the swimming vessels of the aquatic hydrons to the crystalline geometric craft of the silicon-based quartz mines. The meeting took place in a specially constructed chamber that could accommodate the different environmental needs of all the species. So Young found herself sitting across from beings she could never have imagined. The leader of the delegation was Ambassador Zefkala of the Avian Dominion. Her people looked like massive eagles with 4 arms and the ability to speak through color-changing feathers. "Humans of Earth," Zefkala said, her feathers shifting through shades of blue and gold. "You have done something unprecedented. The hegemony has never been defeated before. They have conquered 47 star systems and enslaved billions of beings." A representative from the aquatic hydrons spoke next, his words bubbling through a translation device. "Our people have hidden in the deep ocean worlds for 300 years, afraid to explore space because of the hegemony. You have shown us that resistance is possible." So Young looked around the table at the various aliens. Each species had a story of running, hiding, or being conquered. None had ever fought back successfully. "We didn't fight them because we're special," she said simply. "We fought them because it was the right thing to do. The Rilani asked for help and we answered." This statement caused a stir among the delegates. Several species began talking at once, their translation devices creating a babble of different languages. Ambassador Zefkala raised one of her 4 hands for silence. "This concept, answering calls for help from strangers, it is foreign to galactic civilization. Species survive by hiding or by being too strong to attack. No one helps others at risk to themselves. Then maybe it's time for galactic civilization to change," Commander Taman said from his position beside So Young. The meetings continued for several days. Each alien species shared their knowledge and their fears. The picture that emerged was terrifying. The hegemony controlled almost a quarter of the galaxy and was expanding rapidly, but there was hope now too. Dr. Yang presented her analysis of the battle, showing how human tactics had confused and defeated the bioships. Other species began to see that the hegemony could be beaten. Engineer Oh Seung-jun worked with alien scientists to design new types of weapons and defenses. The combination of human innovation and alien technology was producing remarkable results. Two. Breakthrough came when the quartz mines, a species of living crystal beings, offered to share their communication technology. This would allow instant coordination between ships across vast distances, something the hegemony had never faced before. With this technology, Oh explained to the assembled delegates, we could coordinate attacks across multiple star systems simultaneously. The hegemony would never know where we might strike next. Within a month, the first joint alien-human ships were under construction. The designs were unlike anything that had existed before. They combined the best features of each species' technology into vessels that were faster, stronger, and smarter than anything the hegemony had faced. Captain Choi Min-ho, the former commander of the scout ship Harbinger, was given command of the first mixed-species crew. His ship, renamed the Unity, had human officers working alongside Rilani scientists, Hydran engineers, and avian pilots. It's chaos, Min-ho reported after the first week of joint operations. Half the crew breathes air, the other half needs water or methane. The quartz mines communicate through light patterns, and the avians think in 3 dimensions instead of 2. But does it work? So Young asked. Min-ho grinned. Ma'am, this crew can do things that would take a human crew days to accomplish. When everyone contributes their strengths, the result is incredible. The real test came 6 months later, when a distress signal arrived from the Kythera system. A species of aquatic philosophers called the Deep Singers was under attack by a hegemony fleet. This time, the response was different. The human fleet that answered the call was not alone. Rilani science vessels flew alongside human warships. Avian fighters provided air support while Hydran submarines prepared for underwater combat. Admiral So Young stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the Defender of All Worlds, and watched the mixed fleet prepare for battle. 57 ships from 7 different species, all working together. Communications, she called to Officer Shin Da-un, who had survived the first battle and now served as the fleet's chief communications officer. Signal all ships. Today we show the galaxy that no one fights alone anymore. The battle at Kythera was swift and decisive. The hegemony bioships, expecting to face another helpless species, instead encountered a coordinated defense unlike anything in their experience. Human tactics combined with alien technology proved devastating. Rilani crystal weapons disrupted the bioships' neural networks, while Hydran sonic cannons tore through their organic armor. Avian fighters struck with precision that left the enemy confused and scattered. The hegemony fleet retreated after losing half their ships. For the second time in galactic history, they had been defeated. But more importantly, the Deep Singer philosophers were saved. Their underwater cities of living coral survived, and their ancient songs continued to echo through their ocean world. Word of the second victory spread even faster than the first. Species that had hidden for centuries began to send messages to the new alliance. They offered resources, knowledge, and most importantly, hope. Dr. Yang established the Galactic Cultural Exchange, a program that allowed different species to learn from each other. Human medical techniques saved lives across a dozen worlds, while alien technologies solved problems that had plagued humanity for generations. Commander Taemin started the Multi-Species Defense Corps, training soldiers from different worlds to fight together. His first class included humans, Rilani, avians, and even some quartz mines, who had learned to form mobile combat bodies. Engineer O worked with alien scientists to develop new types of faster-than-light travel. The combined knowledge of multiple species led to breakthroughs that made the galaxy seem smaller and more connected. 1 year after the first battle, Admiral So Young received a message that changed everything. Admiral, Communications Officer Da Yun announced,